So just so you all know, we do record these meetings and share them on SBX YouTube channel for anybody who can't be here today. So I'll put that link in the chat window later. But good afternoon. I'm Landon. I'm the Associate Director with SB Act, and I'm joined by Chuck Flax with the City of Goleta, as well as other city staff. This is our monthly Goleta Regional Action Plan meeting where we discuss impacts of homelessness in City of Goleta. So we're going to start with just a couple, actually just one general announcement, and then we'll hand it over to Chuck to share a report from the city. So just reminding everybody, this is a every fourth Monday at 12 p.m. So our next meeting will be on October 28th. So we hope you can join us then. And I'll hand it to Chuck.
Thanks, Landon. So it looks like we don't have any first timers and Judy Nason is our only community member. So this may not be a very long meeting, but I do want to present, and I know I'm actually hoping Jaime can present some concerns that he has about Old Town. But first, let me present some data that I put together. Can you all see the screen? Okay, cool. So doing some more in-depth data analysis, and I'm still actually working on some income information at the request of Councilman Kasdan. But this is the August report. As you can see at the top here, we had 4 people newly identified in August and 2 people housed in August. The total number of identified people is a little larger than if you've been paying attention to past months. And it's because I hadn't been reporting inactive people. And I decided it's better to at least let people know about what I'm considering inactive. So we have 231 identified homeless people in Goleta. What that means is that they've been identified as homeless by a trusted third party, either by an outreach organization or a county agency, or self-identified through the HMIS data system. And so the breakdown that I have of these 231 people is that 87 of them are living in encampments. 28 of them are living in vehicles. 56% are living in shelter, not percent, 56 total. And 30 people are considered inactive. And by inactive, it means that they've lost contact with this homelessness system for the past 90 days. It means they haven't been contacted by outreach. We don't have any sense of where they are. They could be, out of our region. They could have gotten housing somewhere. We just don't know what happened to them. And I think it's important to keep a record of that just so we get a sense of, if it stays the same, if it goes up, it's a useful data point. In terms of total identified, the trend here, this I should probably correct to include the inactives, but 200 people. This is a running total. This is not per month. So our running total is about 200 people that we've identified. This chart, this is a line chart that reflects the data up here. You have people housed in orange and first-time clients in green. And again, this is kind of good news in the sense that we're keeping the number of people housed and the number of people newly identified roughly the same. And so that means you don't see a net increase in total homeless people. In terms of who some of these folks are, of the 201 that we're keeping track of, 60 of them are seniors, so that's 30% of our total population. 8 are transition-aged youth, 4%, and 4 are veterans. And the transition-aged youth folks, that number is actually higher than I would have expected. Because we've actually had quite a bit of housing opportunities for those folks between the Turner Foundation and Buena Tierra, but these are people that are currently homeless too. This new data point is based on a census of vehicles that New Beginnings took as part of their new grant, their SURF 3 grant. They went out and found all vehicles that seemed to have people living in them in the city of Goleta, and they marked all of them on Fulcrum, our mapping system. And I count 136 vehicles with people living in them. So some of them are reflected in this 28 number, but the remainder are not. And we don't know their status. It's going to be kind of up to New Beginnings to enter people into the system so that we have a better handle on where they are and what their needs are. But this is a large number of people living in vehicles. It's certainly a number of concern, and I'll continue to report this number based on what we're observing in the field. So that's my report. Let me get out of the sharing. Or maybe I'll keep it up. Are there any questions about my numbers? Okay, that's great. And then in terms of reports from the city, every week we gather our outreach folks and they give us an update on, and our law enforcement folks, and they give us an update. Lyndon, I don't know if you were going to do that around the Horn report again. Okay.
Yeah,
So why don't you go ahead and do that, but maybe we should let Jaime speak first in terms of some new information we got today about Old Town.
great. Let's go to Jaime.
Sure. No, the only question that I forwarded it, Chuck, over the weekend was just it may be specific to a parcels kind of right off the 5700 block with the 800 blocks between, I believe, Tecolote and Nectarine on the north side. There's multiple businesses that share a parking lot in the back, and there was just concern about some messes being left there, defecation, some other things. And so I don't know if anyone has actually seen any folks experiencing homelessness. I know in the past there had been a couple of businesses that had reported having, um, items left behind. So it was more of a question to respond and check in with the property owners to see, or the businesses to see if perhaps an authority letter would be appropriate to look into, as well as, and the reason I copied Connor and Chuck, maybe Chuck could have CityNet go out at different times, maybe in the evening, and then Connor could work on the authority letter with the property owners. And so
You're talking about the Santa Cruz Market parking lot?
no, it's the parking lot on the north side of Hollister, behind
It's Domingos and La Chapala Market.
yeah,
And
Goleta Florists.
Oh,
There's
okay.
there's a couple of different parking lots. There
Yeah.
are actually three different parcels, but they all kind of probably have some sort of easements along them. So it's just back there. It's out of sight, out of mind. And so I think some of the business owners and operators maybe feeling a little uncomfortable, worried about not only just the waste and materials left, but possibly also folks living back there. So my request in bringing this up to Chuck and Connor was for Chuck to check in with our folks at CityNet, and then Connor to see if he could check in with the property owners to see if there's anything that could be done to help alleviate that.
Thank you.
yeah, so pretty active with Domingos, and they've always had an active authority letter which covers the parking lot.
Okay, but there's three different parcels on that one block, and so even though one parcel has like three businesses, the next parcel has two businesses, and the third parcel has two businesses, I think.
Yeah,
Not all the same. They're the same ownership, in my understanding, is the trust that owns the properties, but they may be for individual parcels. So I just want to make sure we're responding. That's, I guess, at the end of the day.
yeah, and I talked to all the property owners there today too. One of the issues with Goleta Florist is it's a long time resident that's causing the issues at Goleta Florist. She's a long time resident of Old Town that's very resistive to both mental health treatment and homeless outreach. So, and they're not really interested in a law enforcement response at Goleta Florist. And so that's the issue right there at Goleta Florist. And then, yeah, I think there is some issues with the big parking lot behind Domingos and La Chapala Market. It's people living in their vehicles, and they're only tend to be there like later at night. They're usually gone by about 7 o'clock in the morning when I get there, and they're not returning, they say, till about 8 or 9 p.m. at night. So I don't know if New Beginnings wants to kind of get out there basically later in the evening to try to contact those people. But that's the issue with that particular parking lot from talking to Domingos.
I'll follow up with New Beginnings on that, Jaime.
That would be great. I think it's just, the difficulty is it's private property, so unless someone actively calls or requests an authority letter, if patrol isn't actively going back there, it's probably not, not likely to happen. And it's not a knock on patrol. I'm just saying there's a lot of private parking lots throughout Old Town in the city. So can't imagine patrol's priority is to go and check the back parking lots of businesses to see if someone might be back there.
Yeah, that particular parking lot's kind of a known area though.
Okay.
So patrol is back there, but then again, it's like there's that difference between like the law enforcement response versus the outreach response. If someone's just in their car sleeping, minding their own business, a patrol deputy is not going to go pound on the window and say, "What are you doing here?" If someone's committing a crime like defecating in public or using narcotics, they might contact them. But patrol deputies aren't just going to contact someone sleeping in their car in the parking lot. So I think that's kind of where the disconnect probably is, right? Is that, yeah. And so unless someone specifically calls and requests that we trespass somebody, a particular person that's in that parking lot, a patrol deputy is not going to just contact that person for trespassing him.
So is it more often that the trespass is on the front of the property? Like if they're sleeping, in the doorway, that would be more likely to get a response than the back parking lot?
Probably neither. It's just kind of the law enforcement culture is if someone's just purely homeless and minding their own business, a patrol deputy's not going to contact them simply for sleeping.
Okay.
In particular. Yeah, that's just not going to happen unless, we've been specifically asked by that business that day or something. There's a particular person they'd like us to contact, but it's just given the nature of that parking lot behind Domingos, that it's very open and notorious for just people being able to use it. If someone's just sleeping in their car there, they're not going to get contacted. But the other issue is there's people that are legally parking on Tecolote. They're legally parked, but living in their vehicles and also using that parking lot as a bathroom, essentially. And then the other person that's been a particular issue for Goleta Florist, she, again, is such a longtime resident of Old Town that a deputy's not going to contact her just simply because she's there. So, and then in speaking to Goleta Florist, they don't desire a law enforcement response to that issue. So we're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Wouldn't they be, I'm curious, because if the property owner is comfortable with having those folks using their parking lot, that's fine, but wouldn't they not want to see that it's being used also as a bathroom in the area? I mean, maybe if they want to use that lot, shouldn't they have some sort of bathroom facilities available, porta potty kind of thing? It seems like everyone would win then.
They could. I don't think the businesses necessarily want people living in their parking lot. I just think it's kind of doesn't rise to the issue where they're going to call law enforcement every single time they notice it. And the other issue is that there's also people that appears are legally parking on Tecolote, so they're not even trespassing. And then when they do commit the trespass, it's in the middle of the night to relieve themselves. And so nobody's there to see it happen. That's kind of the issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think our best bet though is just, trying to see if we can have maybe not with the lady you're talking about, Connor, but the other individuals, if there's a way to get them to move towards, New Beginnings or, I don't know, any other additional resource. But yeah, I mean, I could see it because we see it at the parking lot over on Kyriel where CVS and Albertsons is. They don't actively, trespass people for, living in their vehicles. I mean, they technically could, but I think it's kind of an unwritten thing, like as long as you're not doing anything damaging and you're gone and it's not an issue, then they don't make it an issue. But again, it's hard to straddle that line if you're patrol, like,
yeah.
what do you want?
Yeah, so that's why patrol guys aren't necessarily just going to go just contact people like you're saying, because patrol doesn't, know exactly know the situation. So unless someone's actively committing a crime in front of them,
Right.
I'm not going to just go contact the person. So yeah.
Does law enforcement have much to do with the orange parking lot that's owned by the city? That's always a really big mess.
Yeah, so there's a parking enforcement officer that works during the weekdays that will patrol that and make sure that the time parking is being enforced there. So that's what we do there. And then law enforcement does go through again, like I was saying, a patrol deputy, unless he sees a particular crime in progress, like for example, urinating in public or some kind of narcotics use or dumping or something.
Or open flame.
Or an open flame or something that draws his attention. He's not just going to see a van that looks like someone might be sleeping on the back and go start pounding on the window and see who's in there.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think an issue that's worth discussing with New Beginnings is whether they are going to be doing more nighttime outreach, because there does seem to be a pretty stable population in different parts of the city that kind of camps out at night, and particularly when they know that there isn't parking enforcement. So that's where I think New Beginnings has an opportunity. As I said in my earlier presentation, there's something like 118 or so folks that 108 folks that are not in our system. So it's there's clearly a need to address some of those concerns.
Why don't we start with CityNet then, since they are the ones doing the regular patrols in that area? Can we go to Ellen?
Hi, good afternoon. Yeah, we spent a lot of time in Old Town, but I haven't been behind to that parking lot, so we can go over there and check it out. Most of our outreach has been out in Elwood Station Road, the kind of area where where Dearborn meets the tracks and San Jose Creek. We're able to do an enrollment out there. We have another one planned for today. We've also been spending a lot of time out at places that were previously cleared, like Los Carneros. I was told might be re-inhabited, so we went back out there and couldn't find anything, but keep checking. Faro Center has actually been really great in terms of bringing people that I've never met before to services. I think we've done 3 enrollments of people that walked into Faro from Goleta that were looking for case management, so that's been really cool. Other than that, it's mostly just Old Town, the areas where people are flying a sign. Most of those individuals are pretty consistently not interested in services, but we just keep checking in with them. And also just checking in with the Father Virgil Center, because that has kind of a no man's land, so we see some overlap there. But I think that's it for me.
Thank you, Ellen.
Ellen, you mentioned Los Caneros. Did you mean the lake area?
No, I mean the area behind Willow Springs.
The apartments.
I got
okay.
a community report of new camps there, but we went out there and couldn't find anything.
Okay.
And then, Jean, since you have to leave early, do you have any updates you want to share about La Posada or anything else?
Not really. I mean, La Posada, I think their census right now is at about 34. Good Sam's doing a great job of working with homeless outreach, and they're had a couple of move-ins, I guess, to permanent supportive housing. So they're trucking along. They're doing good.
Yeah, that's quick. That's great. Let's go to Todd with Good Samaritan Surf.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Todd with Good Samaritan Shelter, Surf 2. Last week, the team made 3 shelter referrals. We were able to stabilize 2 individuals at the sobering center. Happy to announce that 1 client is in the last stages of the Section 8 process, and we have 1 individual moving into the Falding by the end of the month. So 2 housing outcomes, which is great. And then last week, the team did several fulcrum updates. The main focus was in Goleta, was on San Jose Creek and Creekside, as well as all the surrounding areas around Creekside. It's been busy around Creekside. And then fulcrum has been updated with detailed photos. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. I had a email from the county indicating that PATH has extra beds available specifically for Surf 2 clients. Is your staff aware of that as an offer to people?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I talk to Catherine almost every day. She's been super informative and helpful. So thank
That's
you.
great. Yeah, thank you.
All right, let's go to George, City of Goleta.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Our focus has been on two primary areas. So removing trash from incidental, I'd say like overnight stays at Elwood Mesa. We've got about a half dozen locations across the Mesa where we have signs of a temporary encampment. And thank you, Deputy Warden, for helping coordinate on getting out to the kind of hidden areas. It's been very active there. The other big focal area is our Kyriel Hempstead encampment. And this is a long-term resident from our records. It looks like over 75 offers of service, site visits. My primary concern at this location, it is city property, is the risk of a wildfire there. So our focus has really been on removing trash and debris from the site. So working with the resident to get as much trash out of the encampment as possible. We did a trash removal on Friday, but I'd estimate it's probably less than 5% of the overall trash at the site. So we're ready to move to the next step, which is doing a deeper trash removal and removing vegetation at the site. So not talking about getting the resident off the site yet, but taking some steps to reduce fire risk. So we'll be coordinating with the team on the call that's involved with this encampment. It is a challenging one, and I know all of these particular sites are challenging, but this one in particular is kind of top of our list for fire risk. It also does span across Caltrans property, so we're going to be coordinating with Caltrans on it.
Where did you say, George? Where did you say? It was Kyriel?
Near Kyriel and Hempstead.
It's on the north side of the freeway.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
The other area to note, well, actually two, sorry, is Johnny D. Wallace Park is going to be opening back up from construction, and we've got one abandoned encampment that we're clearing up in the creek bed. So that'll be happening in the next week. And then, excuse me, I did want to bring up the primarily vehicular encampment that is west of Goleta on Kyriel Extended, and just wanted to mention that because we've gotten a couple residents from City of Goleta asking about that or City Assist online reporting system. So I know Chuck and I have talked about it, and I think the one question I have, Chuck, is if we do have any data or information if folks that are camping there are coming into Goleta during the daytime, or if there's any directed outreach that we're focused on.
Yeah. Actually, before I answer, I know Adriana was going to leave. Adriana, did you actually have a report, or were you here primarily for information, just to and answer questions?
I'm just here to answer questions.
Okay, great.
If you need any like bed counts, I can do that for you, but just here to answer questions.
Adriana is the manager of Hedges, House of Hope in Isla Vista, where quite a few Goleta residents are housed, which is great. Yeah, are you prepared with a bed count? You want to give us that?
Well, yeah, I have 33 beds right now that are full. I have opened it up to 50, so we can accommodate more residents at this time.
Wow.
So yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So George, to answer your question, my understanding is that the outreach component for that site is being handled by New Beginnings. They are coordinating with Kimberly Albers and Catherine at the county level specifically, In terms of impacts on Goleta, I haven't heard of any directly, but I'm not aware of anybody actually sort of tracking specific movements. So, it's not inconceivable that people would drive their vehicles into Goleta. So it's certainly worth our attention and monitoring. And I'll work with New Beginnings to make sure that we get, ongoing reporting about that.
There are people that stay out there that I have frequently contacted in Goleta. So there is, movement.
I think that the Good Samaritan ARPA team has also been involved with that too, but neither New Beginnings nor ARPA is here today.
No, and I think the county's kind of warding them off and making sure New Beginnings is taking the lead.
George, did you have anything else?
Nope, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. No, thank you. Deputy Warden.
First off, I'm glad to hear that the Faro Center is being used. I've actually given a couple people a ride down there, so I'm glad it's being used. They're actually using it. Chuck helped me get one individual into emergency shelter from Goleta that I contacted last week. Just on that note, I have noticed a significant increase in people here from Los Angeles that were provided with either a train ticket or a means of transportation to get up to this area.
Wow.
So that's who she was just. I contacted this individual on the freeway. She was given a train ticket in Los Angeles to Santa Barbara and then just started walking on the freeway and found her way up here. But
wait a minute. The city of Los Angeles is getting rid of their homeless people by giving them a train ticket or a bus ticket to Santa Barbara?
I doubt that's official policy, Councilman.
Yeah.
Well, I can actually chime in on that a little bit. When I worked in the city, we had a program where people were, if they were from an area or if they were had resources there or knew of resources there. So if your city is one known for many resources, you might show up on radar, right, for houseless people. And so what happens is they'll say, okay, we'll get you a ticket because that lowers their calls for service. And yet it sounds pretty bad, but sometimes people can actually get stability that way if we're sending them home to their family. So that's sometimes why they end up in Santa Barbara. And so I've talked with people in the past about that, and they landed here because they heard of the great resources here. People are kinder here, a little more generous. There was more options for them to get the kind of help that they needed to try to, get some stability. So that could have been the case with Connor's individual. I don't know, but that happens a lot.
I guess I would just want to know if there was anything official or formal, that it was not just like a business paying or an individual paying for it to happen, but if there was anything governmental that was doing it, aside from the idea that we do as well, like a family reunification, totally understandable. But if they're just thinking, oh, let's just send them to Santa Barbara, they got a rich area there, they'll take care of them, and unloading their homeless as a policy, that wouldn't be good.
I haven't heard of that happening.
Yeah, okay. In my conversation, I didn't get into it with them of like what the policy was that got them up here. It's come up in conversation. I'm asking them, where are you guys from? How'd you get here? You seem new. I'm Connor, and it just comes up in conversation. They were recently given a train ticket when they were down in Los Angeles to come up to Santa Barbara.
Train's pretty expensive. I would think they'd give them a bus ticket. Although the view is very nice. So I'm sure they enjoyed the ride.
Yeah, I mean, this could very much start the practice of people unofficially encouraging providers to help reunify them on, whatever linkage they can to whatever justification they can to anywhere but here kind of thing, right? And so, yeah, it's kind of a bummer to hear this starting to happen. When I was in the Bay Area, that was somewhat commonplace. And
maybe this, Jaime, is because of the new train station where
you know what, you do one good thing. You do one good thing, Councilmember Kasdan, and all of a sudden you get different kind of attention.
This is something, though, just while we're talking about it, that it does create some rumors in the community. Like even within Santa Barbara County, different cities often accuse each other of doing that to other cities in the county. And so it is important to substantiate that kind of information to whatever extent we can, because in many cases there's just some miscommunication about what's really happening. In no place in our county is that a policy that is like encouraged or pushed at all. So,
but it can be misconstrued. I mean, City of Goleta does move people to Santa Barbara and to Isla
absolutely.
Vista for shelter. It's a very common place for people for behavioral wellness to locate people outside of the county for a variety of services, of all different kinds. So, this happens, and it I don't think it's formal. It's not like we're loading people on buses and transporting them en masse. I think it's very much a case by case situation. George?
Chuck, have you heard in your circles? I know the governor issued a directive to cities and counties last month that they should start proactively removing encampments from public right-of-ways and government properties. Have you heard in your circles of cities, counties doing that? And essentially the blowback is that we have more folks moving up to cities and counties that are not as proactive on.
So I think it's a concern. I think it's something to be aware of. Yeah, there are certainly, it seems to me that the biggest disruptor in response to the governor's order was Caltrans. And so Caltrans did push quite a few people out of its right of way. And that impacted it, quite a few folks in our local region. In terms of people moving on their own to different places to be homeless, that's less common than you might expect. Partly as Councilman Caston mentions, it's not so cheap to pick up and move, without some kind of transportation, et cetera. What I'm seeing is that city councils in a variety of cities around the region, around the state, are and county boards of supervisors are talking tougher about their policies. But in terms of actual impacts, it's not something that we've started to notice or see in any comprehensive way. But there may be some movement as a result of what you're talking about, George.
Deputy Warden, did you have anything else?
No.
Thank you. And then Officer Gaston?
I had previously recorded that now that school is starting up again, I've got a lot of kids moving in, as my office is at Santa Catalina. We had a few people a few weeks back that were inside of some of our buildings, and as the professors were coming back, they would discover there were some people that were kind of squatting in the non-used classrooms, and so we didn't know if those were going to go up. So we did do some prim checks and stuff, and it seems like we didn't find any new people. We just kind of have our usual individuals that'll sometimes come on the UCSB property, and they'll find a place to encamp for a while. But I don't have any new cases at this point from that. I thought the number would go up a little bit, but it has not right now. So most of our professors are back in their labs and their classrooms and stuff, and I haven't seen anything come across my email from patrol indicating that they found any new people. So that'd be pretty much all I have.
Officer Gaston, does either your office or is there a different office on campus that tracks students who are considered homeless, or is it's not something that's kind of systemically tracked?
I suspect that it is systemically tracked. Our office doesn't do it, but
I may reach out to you offline. Maybe you can give me some suggestions, because
yeah,
I'm thinking, I didn't realize, I was a little surprised at the large number of vehicles on Goleta, and I wonder what number of those are actually students.
You're right.
So it's worth, yeah.
I agree. I'm curious about that myself. But yeah, we don't track that specifically, that data.
All right, well, let's go ahead and open it up for community members to share any questions or concerns. Anything from the community?
I have a question. Well, this is Irene Russo, and I'm always talking about Elliott Station Road and the tracks. But there was a man who spoke at the new candidates meeting who is from the housing complex up the street, and he was complaining about people going in the yard. He said he was representing the complex, and people, it's the other opening to the encampment on the tracks beside Ellis Station, and he said people were going through their yards, and he was kind of complaining about that. And I still see people going to the tracks. Yesterday I saw these guys coming out. So there's still an encampment there. And my question is, well, the manager of our park has been removing stuff from Ellis Station Road, and I would like to ask him to put to fix the fence. That's all that needs to be done. I don't think we're going to have too much traffic after that, but the fence is wide open. Sorry for the plane.
No,
So,
you're good. We can't hear it.
Pardon?
I said we couldn't hear it. You're good.
Oh, good.
I heard it.
I mean, I'm outside of my yard and the train goes by and the planes go by. But anyway, there's still people going on the tracks. I'm not sure that they're homeless. I just think there's something else going on there. And if we could just fix the fence, it would help, I think. Am I wrong, or do I have this totally misconstrued? And the manager of our park has also complained about people going through the park. He said to tell you, if I go to this meeting, that he's always chasing people that are going through the park.
Ms. Russo, this is George Thompson, the parks manager for City of Goleta. If I could just ask, are you talking about a privately owned park?
I'm talking about, yeah, Elwood Station Mobile Home Park.
Okay, sorry. Okay, I will address the issue about the fence because typically what we've seen is not necessarily at Elwood Station Road. I'll talk specifically about that in a moment. Where we have active encampments and we put up a fence, within a day, that fence will be cut.
Right.
People are still going to access the encampment on a Union Pacific property. So we've got a couple sites around town where we're dealing with a similar issue, and putting up fencing more often than not, does not address the root issue. The other thing I want to highlight, and I know that you've heard this before, is this is Union Pacific property. So from that fence line due south on Elwood Station Road, about 150 feet out from the fence line, all of that is Union Pacific property.
So how far down is that? How far is Union Pacific property? Is it
about 150 feet from the fence itself towards Hollister?
Uh-huh. So what exactly is the property? Is it the road? Is it the side of the road?
The road.
Just the road?
Yes. The road and what appears to be, public right-of-way sidewalk in this location is actually Union Pacific property.
Okay. And is that actually documented somewhere?
Yes, it is in our property maps.
So that's why the city doesn't really have to do anything about the trash or the shopping carts or the right
Well, we have done quite a bit
yes.
on this issue, remove trash from Union Pacific property, but ultimately it is not the city's property, and we are, cautious about spending taxpayer dollars on private property.
So Alistair Wynn, who owns the storage area across the street, put up a fence where they typically went all the time. And it's really it's a barrier. So if there was a barrier put up on the other side, you don't think that would stop that traffic flow to the tracks?
If somebody is trying to access their encampment, they will find a way to get to it, whether it's a strong fence or chain link or barbed wire. They will cut through it.
But it's also on Union Pacific property, right? I mean, you
Correct.
can contact Union Pacific and make the suggestion to them.
Oh yes, I'm in touch with Lupe Valdez a lot.
Lupe's on the
And
call.
I'm on the call.
Hi, Lupe.
Lupe.
Sorry,
Hi, Lupe.
I am on the call.
Hi,
Um,
Lupe.
Hi.
Glad meeting you again.
Yes, and I know we've also been the fence, the challenge with that fence, because I've been asking if we could do it might not be pretty, but if we could do a double reinforced fence in that area.
Yeah.
And so I have been working with our staff to see, but city staff is correct. Our fence is vandalized as soon as we put a lock up, and they do different things to vandalize our fences. It's not just, I mean, it's normally damaging enough so that it's hard to close it up again, but that's a constant struggle in that area. I know we had delays on the cleanup. I thought it was going to be done by now. It had not been done. A crew that was out there was focusing on just the vegetation, not the cleanup. I believe now our staff is focusing on the cleanup because we're doing all of the Santa Barbara sub, not just Goleta. So we had to deal with some of the vegetation issues that were obviously from all the rains we had. So that was the focus. And now we're focusing on going back and doing cleanups. But we appreciate city staff. It's just been kind of challenging these days, to say the least, on these issues. It's just a challenging issue we have all over Southern California.
Are you with the railroad?
I am. I'm with Union Pacific Railroad. Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. And as we have more and more passenger service on these lines, I mean, that's what makes it. I know I appreciate the calls I've received, because those trains, I mean, again, passenger service is important to our whole region. But we're again working a lot with our regional partners on trying to do some additional cleanups all around the whole Santa Barbara Ventura area, in particular, where we just constantly have this challenge.
And I know someone who walked the tracks late at night from Santa Barbara to Goleta, and he saw a tremendous amount of campers and actually 2 dead bodies on the way.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have had, I can only say that we have had a lot of folks, at least this past year, not only in this area, but unfortunately, the fentanyl crisis is hitting all communities pretty hard. And it's the first year I've had people be found in tents deceased. I've had that in other states. I have not really had that much, believe it or not, in California. But now it's very tied to the prevalence of drugs and the fentanyl crisis that we're all dealing with, which is very, very sad. Very, very sad.
So I have one more question about the Elwood Station encampment. Is there any way you can just clean up the dead brush and it just seems like there's always trash and tents there, and it doesn't seem to ever go away.
And we can do it. It's not so much that I wish I could arrest some people for illegally trespassing on private property, but it doesn't hold a lot of water right now for illegal trespass. Most counties do not prosecute illegal trespass. Okay. Even though it's a misdemeanor site. I can arrest people in other states. I can't do it in California for illegal trespass, or it's not very effective, should I say, which is a real challenge to private property owners when we don't want these individuals on our right of way. It's a dangerous place for them to be for a number of reasons, but it is a constant struggle that we have because our rights of way are open, obviously accessible. So that's the challenge that we face. And I know I've been taught, the city has been great about outreaching to me and letting me know about the trash and debris and the encampments. But we struggle with that. I also use CityNet, not the city CityNet. I have my own contract with CityNet to outreach to these individuals. So we've gone to try to see if we could approach this a different way. but you still can't require people to take service no matter what you offer. So it's, to me, the missing link will eventually be, I think, that folks in California will have to deal with is a fix that'll include a citation that holds for some individuals that refuse to, they continue to break the law, bottom line.
Mm-hmm. Well, isn't trespassing breaking the law? Just going on the tracks is trespassing.
Correct. But these are citations or misdemeanor citations that have been, from when I first started at UP to now, they used to be taken seriously by the counties. They are no longer in that same bucket of concern. And there are other crimes, obviously, that are more concerned, but it's really hurt us in terms of citations, issuing citations. Again, it's for misdemeanor trespass. It is illegal, but there's no consequence right now to for these individuals. There's just no consequence.
What about for defecating and throwing trash? Is that misdemeanor also?
I think for me, I know trespassing. I don't know about the other items. I believe they're all, I think they're all misdemeanors.
Defecating is not even a misdemeanor, it's just an infraction.
Okay.
So, and depends on the dumping too. Littering, again, can just be an infraction. So that's not even, both those offenses aren't even arrestable.
Small fine or something.
Again, yeah. And then it's even more difficult than trespassing is to even for dumping or defecating in public, you have to actually see the crime in progress to even cite somebody for it. So again, like we were talking about at the beginning of the call, it's just because there's urine in a place and somebody's living in that place doesn't mean it's necessarily their urine. So yeah.
Lupe, just a couple of comments because I'm dealing with very similar issues, but on a much smaller scale. I understand you're managing the Western U.S.
Southern California.
Probably have hundreds, if not thousands, of encampments that you're looking at across the states.
Right.
One of the things that we're working on is reducing both the visual impact, the health and safety issues, and fire risk being, one of the top concerns. So we know that we've got outreach teams trying to get folks into housing. In the meantime, I mean, that process takes years in some cases. We are trying to manage the outfall. So removing trash, trimming down vegetation. Do you have the resources from your end to take that approach rather than, just trying to arrest somebody and get them out of there?
We two different departments, because I have a safety team that handles the homeless encampments. So along with CityNet, our staff goes out first to obviously notify these folks. They already know 9 times out of 10, they know they're not supposed to be there.
Right.
And so we have those resources I have a good handle on. My challenge right now is on vegetation. I do know they passed by, and please let me know if they didn't get to the vegetation, because my understanding were crews were going to go through that entire area to clear up and trim back vegetation from the right of way. So if that didn't happen, let me know that, because my understanding was they were working on vegetation removal. But I know sometimes it might be at the edge of the property, not within 25 feet of the track. So they tend to focus on they normally can focus on 25 feet edge of rail, but at times it should go from end to end, meaning on the property on both sides to the extent of the property that we have on the rail side. So just let me know if that did not happen out there on vegetation.
And this is a UPRR employee that heads up this program?
Sometimes we use contractors. It depends. It can be a UP employee, but it can also be contractors that we contract out, because this is a time we also do pre-emergent spraying so that we try to combat it that way. But normally it's been a UP contractor that does the vegetation, because they also have, for our encampments, these are not just your regular contractors. Our staff can't touch this stuff because of the biohazard.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to have hazmat people out there when they do the cleanups on the encampment side. It hasn't been the case on the vegetation side yet. Right now, I don't have that issue. They've been able to just go out there and cut back vegetation if they can't completely remove it.
Got it. And that is only on the 25 feet from center line of track.
Right,
on both
unless
sides.
I
Okay.
have other, and sometimes they do a clear cut if
Yep.
it's something that is dead versus living. Some people want shrubs there, some people don't want shrubs there. So you have a combination of things that have happened over the years. But if there is something that is dried vegetation, let me know.
Okay, I think most of the sites that we're looking at with encampments are outside of that 25 feet, but still on UP properties. I think maybe if we just have a follow-up.
Right, but I'd still be responsible for the encampments. I don't want to say that I wouldn't, anything on UP property, we'd be responsible for.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Lupe. I appreciate you being here and responding to all these questions.
No problem.
Lupe, I have a question for you. Do we have permission to fix the fence ourselves? It's not, yeah, it's on the side.
No, well, we would have to have something like, I would need to get our staff only because we need access to that area. So normally what we've done with, it's been more with cities, not residents. We've done daisy chains, but again, my concern is it's just going to get ripped up again. I mean, that my concern is I don't, I'd rather waste our money than waste your money. So let me talk to Javier Sanchez out there to see how quick he can do something, but we need access. So I need to make sure that whatever is there, and a daisy chain is one that normally has several different locks on it, but they've been damaging those as well. I
was referring to the side fence that's next to the storage, next to the empty field, not the not the gate.
Okay.
You guys always fix the gate. It's just the side fence they've totally torn down.
Okay, and it's just regular chain link, right?
Yes.
If that's something that as long as you don't go on UP property, I mean, it's just a matter that I think people might vandalize it again. That I always issue that warning because folks do vandalize our fences all the time.
Yeah. Well, it is UP property in the sense that our street is UP property. So I don't know. But
Let me see what I can do on my side before we go there. Let me see what I can do on my side before on the rip fence part, because I've been focusing on the gate.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we have about 4 minutes or 3 minutes left. Any last questions or anything anyone wants to share while we're all together?
I'll just say one last thing about Elwood Station Road because we've spent a lot of time discussing this. Until those encampments are gone, we will continue to see folks trying to access UP property off of the end of Elwood Station Road. So we can put up the tallest wall, thickest wall, and people will continue to try to get through it.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for today. I want to thank you all again for being here. Appreciate you all sharing and questions and the conversation. So we will be in touch and see you in October.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great day.